I just love the way Vijay Amritraj infused us with the thought. He says this is India's moment. Yes, it is India's moment. There was a time when India was very content in letting other people define it. But now it appears that India wants more. What it wants really is to define itself to the world. And that's been a big change over the last 2 decades or so. And of course, now you're beginning to see it in ways that manifest itself in so many ways. But this is my opinion. I'd like to actually speak to these amazing gentlemen who both represent big brands. Lord Birimoria is a brand in himself. He left from India and forged his career in the UK and did fantastically well and is an ambassador for our country in more ways than one. And of course, we have with us Puneet, who is the CEO of India's iconic Taj brand. It's recognized just about everywhere. In fact, I would say that Trump might have been inspired and pulled one of his hotels to name them after the Taj. Anyhow, let's get this conversation started. Let's start broad, Mr. Birimoria. Let me begin with you, if you don't mind my calling you Mr. Birimoria, not Lord Birimoria, but anyhow. Mr. Birimoria, is the world finally waking up to Bharat's potential, India's potential? Or is India now beginning to influence the conversation? Well, what's happening here?
Without a doubt, the world has woken up to India. If you look back to the liberalization that started in 1991, it actually took over a decade. It was only from 2002 onwards that the Indian economy started to actually rocket, almost reaching double-digit growth per year. And we haven't looked back since then. And today, India is the fastest growing major economy in the world at over 6% growth. What we would give in the UK for 6% growth, it's phenomenal. And what has happened now is that India has also become the largest country in the world in terms of population. We've overtaken China. It is my prediction that we will overtake China as an economy as well, and that by 2060, India will be the largest economy on this planet. And what I think people are beginning to appreciate is, why is India, this giant country, powering ahead and so resilient when everything around it quite often falls apart? And I'll tell you 2 reasons. One is India's democracy has shown itself to be rock solid resilient. The Indian Armed Forces, my father, the late General Birimoria, was Commander-in-Chief of the Central Army. I was brought up in the army from childhood. The Indian Army has never, ever interfered in politics. There is no chance ever of a coup in India. So we've got a strong armed forces, a strong, robust democracy. And the second thing that I think people take for granted and don't appreciate, both within and outside India is the most diverse country in the world by far. And that diversity of religion, of race, of terrain, of languages, of everything gives India its biggest strength. India's diversity is its strength.
Puneet Chhatwal, let me run that by you too. Many people say these are inevitabilities. You know, India had this population which would continue to grow, and this was a moment that was inevitable. Others have said that, look, the momentum of the reforms would have taken us past Britain and several others. Is that really the case, or have we actually fashioned these outcomes? Finally.
No, nothing is inevitable and nothing just happens on its own. So I think firstly, where there is a will, there is a way. Second, there is no substitute for hard work. There is no substitute, as we just heard, for resilience. And obviously, one thing which is very much differentiated India, within India and abroad, is the focus of the large population on education. I think primarily every household wants to have a house, then they invest a bit in gold, which they have inherited for generations, but people would even take big loans, not from today, but from 20, 30 years ago, to give their children the best education. And I think that is really making a very big difference. And especially with the Indian diaspora outside of India, like Lord Bilimoria, doing so well, as Vijay Amritraj also just alluded to, it's really making a very big difference. India was always doing well. We should not forget the 1947 till now, 75 years is not such a long period. So India started doing well, and especially in the last decade has done extremely well. And there is nothing that makes anyone else believe that something will come in its way. There will be some headwinds every now and then, but that's normal. There's nothing like a straight line all the time. And I agree. I don't know, number one, economy or not, because that takes many, many years. But definitely by 2030 to be the third largest is something I firmly believe in.
Well, that's interesting. Lord Bilimoria, the biggest strategic strengths emerging, as you see them, when you look back at India from the West. Innovation, demography, you mentioned demography, diplomacy, or something else. What do you think?
If you look at the demography, and going back to this diversity, I mean, I'm a Zoroastrian Parsi. There are more than 1.4 billion people in India, and there are only 100,000 Parsis in the whole world. I released a book just now, written by my cousin, The Parsis of Delhi. Mm-hmm. Do you know, at no time have there been more than 800 Parsis in Delhi. And today, out of a population of 33 million. And yet that little community has produced chiefs of the army, navy, air force, MPs, the Tata Group.
The first Taj Hotel of India was by the founder, Jamshedji Tata, in 1903, which we also call the Temple of Hospitality.
Mm-hmm. And so the point I'm making is India allows everyone to flourish. That diversity allows any community, from as tiny as the Parsis to hundreds of millions, to actually flourish. That's the biggest strength. The next strength is the entrepreneurial spirit. The entrepreneurial spirit of India was suppressed for decades after independence. And now that entrepreneurial spirit has been unleashed. And look at it around the world. It's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I went to one of the 7 schools I went to was the Hyderabad Public School. Do you know, from the Hyderabad Public School today, Satya Nadella, head of Microsoft, Ajay Banga, the head of the World Bank, Shantanu, the head of Adobe, I don't know how many chief ministers of states, cabinet ministers from one school, unleashed. It's brilliant. I really believe in India's potential. And the 35 million that Puneet's talking about, of which I'm proud to be a member, they're reaching the top in every field. We had a Prime Minister of Indian origin in the UK just now, and it makes me very proud.
Yeah, but many people say that, look, right now we've got a problem because diversity is being crushed. We've got Prime Minister Modi, who's coined this beautiful phrase, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. How do you see it as a minority yourself when people say that, oh, there's no place for minorities in India anymore, shrinking, this, that, the other, rights, and you know how it is. What do you make of that conversation?
I'm sorry, I can only say from my own experience that there is no limit to what any minority can achieve in India. The opportunity is there for everybody.
Opportunity is there for everybody. That's really brilliantly put, because it's all about opportunities when you're a rising economy, and of course Bharat is rising. I want to ask you, Mr. Modi has come at a time when the world is witnessing several different changes. We're looking inwards, many countries are looking inwards. Are we poised to take the India story outwards under Modi?
You know, I would not want to go from that point of view, but a very different, I have a very different feeling to it. As much as we are doing well, inside and outside of India, there are very few brands from India that have made it on the global stage. If there is one brand that comes to my mind, not because I represent it, it's the Taj. By Brand Finance in the last 4 years, thrice it has been rated as the world's strongest hotel brand. And I think that is the kind of platform we all have. And I think more and more brands would come in future, and that's the kind of opportunity we sit on. Of course, the policies that we benefit from would help us progress more in this direction. But as the previous speaker said, India's hospitality is second to none. We learned this skill of hoteliering from the West, and today India's brands in hospitality are thriving, are doing very, very well, and especially we are doing very well on the global stage. And I hope more and more consumer brands will come up in future and leave their mark on the global stage, which will make India a stronger soft power also. That's the soft power of the brand.
That's a brilliant point, because the emphasis these days is to go global and become one of the big brands, global brands. Now, Taj, is it getting the support it needs to become perhaps, and maybe there are nuances here, but I want to ask you, do you think you see yourself as the next premium JW Marriott of the world? Every continent, pretty much every global city, what does that take?
Every company has different strategies. I think, with all respect for the largest hotel company, Taj is Taj. Let's not compare it to any other brand. And scale is one metric. See, nobody in the world has palace hospitality like we are able to present to the world. We call it the living legacies of the Taj. And I came back 7.5 years ago, but having had 3 decades outside of India, having worked for other global companies and having led them, I can tell you I have never experienced or seen anything like the palace hospitality that we offer. The opportunity is for Taj to take the palace hospitality across the globe. There are many palaces which are still available in France, in Germany, in Spain, etc. And that's the opportunity to export. And we are looking at it also. It's not that we are not looking at it. And, all my relationships built over 3 decades in Europe, anybody coming to India, I make it a point that they come and experience that kind of hospitality. Very recently, somebody from our family wanted to do a wedding at Taj in New York. I said, just bring your children who were born in California, it does not matter, just bring them once. And I am sure they will themselves request you to change the wedding venue to India. And wed in India actually happens that way.
Well, that's been the emphasis.
If I may just say,
of
and
course.
I'm not just saying Puni because you're my friend, sitting here, but my family were just saying to me literally yesterday, they said, Dad, the service you get in India is better than anywhere else in the world. And we stay at hotels all over the world. And they meant unprompted. So.
Well, I second that any day. I have to ask you a question because it's been doing the rounds. And innovation, of course, is going to determine who leads the world. And you've got a very optimistic picture when it comes to India. So, Union Minister for Commerce and Trade, Piyush Goyal, and I'll quote him, and he said, and he was sort of comparing on a slide screen startups in India and China. And he said, food delivery apps, fancy ice cream and cookies, instant grocery delivery, betting and fantasy sport apps, and reels and influencer economy, unquote. Innovation is the name of the game. Is India a player? Do you agree with the Union Minister?
Innovation is absolutely key. And you've got to remember, although India is the fastest growing major economy and is going to be the 3rd largest soon, in my view, the 1st, the largest in time to come by 2060, the per capita income, the biggest measure, when I talk to Chief Minister of a state, I say one of the measures of your success as a Chief Minister is in your tenure, has your per capita GDP gone up? Because that means people are getting better off. And the reality is that India's per capita GDP as we speak is around $3,000. In the UK, we're at 50,000. America, it's 80,000. So we've got a long way to go to get up to $30,000, which is the benchmark to get to as quickly as we can. So there is a task to be done. And one of the best ways to do that is to have a free, open market economy, which Prime Minister Modi has done a phenomenal job in creating over the last decade, to allow entrepreneurship to flourish. But you also have to create inward investment, and that investment's got to come into things like research and development and innovation. And if you look at the percentage of R&D expenditure in India, it's not high enough. In the UK, it's 1.7% of GDP. America is over 3% of GDP. We need to bring that inward investment, domestic investment, into R&D and innovation, and that is absolutely crucial. It has to be a priority. But here's another point I want to make, building on what Puneet said. What is so important for any country is to have a combination of hard and soft power. Not many countries in the world have the ability to do both. And I think the UK and India, although one is only 70 million people, one's 1.4 billion, but UK is the 6th largest economy in the world, and today India is the 5th largest, both have phenomenal combinations of hard and soft power. So our defense powers are strong, financial services in the UK, India's got manufacturing powerhouse, but look at the UK when it comes to soft power. Our universities are the best in the world, along with the United States of America. Our culture, our creative industries, our theatre, our music, our accountants, our lawyers, the best in the world. And then if you look at the royal family in the UK, respected when the Queen passed away, the world mourned for her. And then if you look at, for example, Premier League football, the top football teams like Chelsea, Manchester United, they've got hundreds of millions of followers around the world. So we've got huge soft power combined with hard power, and India has likewise got that, and that makes a country very, very powerful.
And we've also got a diaspora, and you've spoken often about the inventiveness of the diaspora. That actually is the leading edge, really, of this wedge. And how are global Indians now perceived in boardrooms, parliaments, increasingly, and cultural spheres?
I think, I don't mean to say this is a boasting thing, but the world...
Oh, come on, boast a bit.
The world looks upon the Indians as the cleverest people in the world. And that's a fact. You know, in Parliament just now, in the House of Lords, I made this point where we're trying to encourage science and education of science and engineering and maths. I said, why can't the UK be like India, where 1.5 million school leavers sit to enter the IITs, 150,000 make it to this first cut, and 15,000 get a place, and those 15,000 are now running the world. And engineering and maths and science is the most popular subject. Why can't we be like that in the UK? We can learn from India.
That's a nice one. Mr. Chhatwal, exporting a brand like the Taj, talking about India's soft power and its reach and its influence to global markets, must come with both pride and a sense of challenge also. I mean, there's opportunity, as you said, but there's a challenge. How do you retain the Indian essence while appealing to a global clientele? How do you do that?
You know, you don't have to have elephants outside your property in London or in New York on the Fifth Avenue, which we have on the palaces. Your brand is defined really by your core values, and the core values represent your DNA. And for the benefit of the audience, we have defined Taj as trust, awareness, and joy. Trust of all our stakeholders, awareness of the communities that we live and work with, and joy in doing whatever we do, including sitting on this panel discussion. I genuinely believe you can change your business plans every 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, depending on where the markets are going, but you cannot change your core values. And your value system comes in life from 3-4 sources. One is the families you grew up in. Second is the businesses you worked in. And third is the people very close to you, whether you call them mentors or friends or who have had an influence on your life. So I think if we keep those core values intact in a brand, both in a professional and a personal fashion, a brand like Taj, which is 121 years old, has a very bright 121 years ahead. Challenges will be there because when you acquire a property, the world might change, like it did when we last time did something big outside of India, and the Lehman crisis happened, and then, there was 9/11 that happened. So things keep changing, which you cannot predict in advance. But if your value system is strong, it will help you overcome any kind of challenges that come your way.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much for this perceptive conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Mr. Bilimoria and Mr. Chhatwal. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lord Bilimoria, Mr. Puneet Chhatwal, and clearly when it comes to the Taj group of hotels, they really stand out. And if you have a 121-year legacy, ladies and gentlemen,